digital service manager managing the outsourced teams in a large-scale Agile development project in MOM called WINS. In today's sharing, I will cover a few segments. Firstly, just hang on, let me shift my slides. In today's sharing, I'll cover three segments. Firstly, on Agile, followed by talking a little bit about the Agile development project I'm in, WINS, and I will end with sharing more on the Agile outsourcing journey in WINS. Agile in definition simply means the ability to create and respond to change. Despite of its common relations to the development work, application development work, I had learned that it is applicable to every role in an organization. To me, Agile is a mindset guided by the Agile Manifesto comprising of 4 values and 12 principles, and in which, when embraced by every role in an organization, will drive co-creation and agility to react to change. Even though the Agile Manifesto was written by a group of software engineers, you will realize that the Agile mindset is also useful to common roles like project managers, business analysts, and even business to adopt. So here I illustrated a few of the thought process if I'm of a different role. So if I'm a project manager, I will think about how might we perform project management in a way that allows us to create and respond to change and deal with uncertainty. If I'm a business analyst, how might we perform business analysis in a way that allows us to create and respond to change and deal with uncertainty? And if I'm a business owner, I'm a business sponsor or user, how might we structure and operate our organization in a way that allows us to create and respond to change and deal with uncertainty? As the common saying goes, it takes 2 hands to clap. Agile will only be successful if everyone in organization embraces it. It is a cultural change. In this slide, I stated 4 of the Agile values, which I like to spend a little bit of time going through them. Individuals and interaction over processes and tools. Here, what it means is that we value face-to-face interaction, and we meant talk, and not just sending emails to each other. With the current situation of COVID, we're unable to conduct physical discussion. We always encourage our team members to do virtual calls instead of emailing each other. The team values the time we spent with another team member and also all the inputs that were provided to each other. In Agile, there's always questions on how detailed a story must be, and I like to use the 3 C's. We like to write our user story on a card, first C, and this card, whatever is written on the card, should encourage the second C, communication or clarification. And that's the reason why the card we typically write the stories on are typically very small, because we want to limit the number of words on it. And after clarification, that's when the team that works on the story will then stay committed to the story, which is then the third C and results in a co-ownership. On the second value, working product over comprehensive documentation in documentation. In Agile, we focus on the outcome, which is a product that brings value to the business. Unless the product itself is documentation, the team will always prioritize delivering a working product over writing detailed specification. As we always say, actions always speak louder than words. And on the third value, the focus should be on the business problem, and this can only be solved by collaborating with customers to understand the problem even before exploring the options to resolve the issues. My team always jokes about by the time we pull out the 200-page of the contract, finding the specific chapter, the specific annex, the specific appendix to read the specific terms and conditions, the team will have solved the problem. So why not solve the problem and not let the customer wait and leave the problem while we argue over the contract? Coming to the last value of responding to change over following a plan, it is closely related to the definition of Agile. Unlike a project where it is temporary and has a defined beginning and end in time, and of course with defined scope and resources, Agile focuses on the product, the outcome that brings value to the business. It has the ability to pivot when the conditions and assumptions are wrong, and with one single aim and objective deliver incrementally and iteratively for the business. In this slide, I like to talk about in an Agile team, everyone has a role. everyone and has a list of responsibility, including the management team. In this little diagram that is shown, we talk about a typical team, agile team comprising of a product owner, typically coming from the business side. This product owner provides the vision and the direction to the team. Prioritize features by prioritizing the product backlog, understand the users and the markets, and support the organization strategic direction. Next, followed by the team. A team is typically built up with developers. They are cross-functional individuals. They don't just do development work. They also do analysis work. They do architecture design. They do the actual development. They do the testing and even deployment. Next is the Scrum Master that will always be part of this team. A Scrum Master in GovTech is also known as the delivery manager, but with extended responsibility. Their role is to coach the organization and to facilitate the team in all their Scrum rituals, as well as to support continuous improvement. There are also the managers within this structure. For example, in the supporting roles like a project manager for outsourcing team, helps out in the procurement, the contract management, the vendor management, as well as operations. And as a DSM like myself in the outsourced team, we are there to remove inter-team impediments, to practice goal-see, and to encourage stop and fix, and always experiment over conformance. Next, allow me to talk briefly about the 3 industrial revolutions that we've gone through. The first industrial revolution started at the end of the 18th century to the beginning of 19th. The biggest changes came in the industry in the form of mechanization. The mechanization replaced agriculture as the backbone of a growing economy. The very important invention of the steam engine was also the reason for the creation of a new type of engine that later on helped speed up the manufacturing of railroads, thus accelerating growth. Following the first industrial revolution, almost a century later, we see the world go through the second. It started at the end of the 19th century with a massive technological advances in the field of industries that helped the emergence of the new source of energy, such as electricity, gas, and oil. Another century passes and we bear witness to the third industrial revolution. In the second half of the 20th century, that's where we see the emergence of yet another impactful or source of untapped at that time of energy, which is nuclear energy. The third revolution brought forth the rise of electronics, telecommunications, and of course, computers. Through the new technologies, the third revolution opened up the doors to space expedition, research, and biotechnology. As we have gone through all these 3 industrial revolution, we realize that they are very much focused on mechanization, very much focused on construction and manufacturing. They are all repeatable types of process, as well as service production and services that a waterfall can serve very well. Now, as we experience the 4th industrial revolution, which is also commonly known as Industrial 4.0, it is a revolution that we experience every day and its magnitude is still unknown. In Industrial 4.0, is blurring the boundaries between physical, digital, and biological worlds. It is a fusion of advancement in artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and so much more other technologies. It is this perfect storm of technologies that creates so many unknowns in the possibilities, resulting in the usefulness of Agile to tackle types of work that are no longer manageable using defined processes, unlike waterfall. And the next segment, here I will talk a little bit about the project that I come from, WINS. WINS is a new integrated system for M1 Work Pass division to support its vision to be the leading work pass authority in the world to support a great workforce for Singapore and Singaporeans. Phase 1 of the project started in 2014, where we work on the redevelopment of the module for foreign domestic worker that was completed in 2015. This redevelopment work followed a full outsourced model where the development team, including the Scrum Master, was outsourced to a vendor and it was top works then. ML officers will loop in the project as product owners and leveraging on the knowledge and experience that was gained in phase 1, WINS embarked on phase 2A, with one full in-house development team working on a small self-assessment module for non-mainstream passes and concurrently kicking off another team working on rules. The team continues to expand for phase 2B, which is also the current phase that we're in, with a target for a full takeover of the legacy system that's supporting both EP and SPAS. I often get questions on what WIN stands for, and it's actually made up of the words Work Pass Integrated System as shown in the slide. It is a project name and not the public e-service name. EP Online is the current e-service name and will continue even after replacement. In the slide, I illustrated the various teams that work on this one single product, WINS. Today, WINS has a total strength of 150 members comprising of various roles. There are 8 feature teams and 2 teams are outsourced, which were awarded via the GovTech Agile bulk tender. The other in-house feature teams are made up of GovTech officers and period contractors. There are also dedicated DevOps and DBA teams that are helping out with the central staging and the production environments. There's also a central design team comprising of MOM, BTT, which stands for Business Transformation Team members, and UX designer as well as UI engineers who look after the overall customer journey for WINS and the design approach for the application. Due to the scale of WINS, there's also a PMO office with MOM officers looking after the overall project budget, expenditures, and contracts. In WINS, we're running on Scrum with a 2 or 3 week sprint cycle. As shown in the diagram, Scrum is a management framework for incremental product development using 1 or more cross-functional, self-organizing teams of about 7 people each. It provides the structure of roles, events, rules, and artifacts. In WINS, we have roles such as product owner, Scrum master, development team of up to 8 developers each. Software engineers, and they are made up of software engineers who can code front end and back end, do quality assurance, and also work on DevOps activities. Each of our development team is a feature team, and as illustrated in the diagram, the team works across layers, internet to intranet, and sometimes the other way around. And it's important for sustainability and scalability of the product. This means that every team can take on any product features and not be limited to any component or specific technology. Each team also hosts their own Scrum events such as sprint planning, backlog refinement, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. The artifacts such as product backlog and sprint backlogs are recorded in Jira, and our documentations are done in Confluence. Due to the sensitivity of specific product feature, we also set the needed access control in Jira and Confluence. Before developing the WINS product, the MOM and business and the tech team took the opportunity to review all the legacy pain points and address in a holistic approach. We moved from the old government-centric design that was driven by internal efficiency and very focused on form filling to a citizen-centric design that starts with customer journey leading to app designs, emphasizing on user experience with anticipatory and guided digital transaction. The old monolithic architecture resulting in a tight coupling of various modules and making it difficult to scale independently to meet the time to market needs for the business were then taken apart. Over time, we realized that as the software comes to end of life, it was difficult to apply new technologies, and the tech team has to come up with various methods to mitigate the vulnerabilities brought about by the end-of-life software. That's why in WINS, we embark on the microservices journey, enabling the loose coupling and the independent components within the application. These also allow better scalability and ensuring quick time to market. With the modernized tech stack and the microservice architecture, we also improved the resiliency of WINS to enable regular update patches without downtime, as well as reducing risks to outages when changes are made. This slide provides a simple illustration of the WINS tech stack, showing the technologies that were used in different phases. In phase 1, during the building of the foreign domestic worker module, it was built on Ruby on Rails. And as we progress into phase 2, we started on Node.js and Vue.js. And for backend, we use OutSystem as the rapid development platform. Between the front end and the backend, we have APIs for real-time calls and use RabbitMQ for asynchronous message queues. And for our rules engine, we use Oracle OPA. And for the design component, the in-house team built a MOM design system to cater to the needs of WINS. With so many development teams, Scrum-based development was introduced. WINS developers checks in code daily for continuous integration. All our front-end environments are hosted in GCC and all the services are containerized. Besides the standard unit tests that the developers do, the development teams also create automation test script that enables continuous deployment and ensures stable code commits. In this segment, I'll talk more about the WINS Agile Outsourcing and touching on the why and the what and the hows. And the WINS timeline and the team diagrams that I've shown earlier, you have observed that WINS expanded very quickly over a short period of time. It was almost impossible if we didn't outsource certain product features. There was a timeline pressure to develop product and there were insufficient teams to build the product features. We tried recruiting, but there was and is still an over demand and under supply of software engineers in the market. This is one of the driving factors on why WINS decided to outsource. By outsourcing, we can tap into the industrial pool of experienced developers to elevate the recruitment pressure. At the same time, gain experience from industry developers as well as gain experience from other agile practices. With a whole new team joining WINS, we also selected independent modules to outsource in order to reduce the dependencies to other teams and also product features that are less sensitive. We're glad to leverage on the GovTech bulk tender and completed 2 contracts within a year, which if we have gone for open tender, it could take up a year for each contract to complete. And in the bulk tender, we also leverage on the contract template and a cost schedule, which we adapted based on the MOM needs. We started the Agile outsourcing journey with a small team of 1 project manager and 4 business analysts. Despite leveraging the bulk tender, we still spent considerable effort to get the EVP before trying the tender. We invested substantial effort to create the product backlog with sufficient level of details, which was used for BQ as well as the RFQ. And I highly recommend doing so for any Agile outsourcing project. There are quite a few user story or product backlog item templates out there that you can search for easily, but here are the few key pointers I would like to share. A product backlog item describes the what and not how. As tech, we often have the habit of describing how to do it, but for a product backlog, it's more important to describe what needs to be achieved and not how to achieve it. Also, we need to be mindful not to slice it horizontally. Another characteristic of how, by describing the steps to achieve the feature, is when we slice it horizontally. It needs to be sliced vertically to create independent feature that must deliver value even without another product backlog item or another story. And lastly, the desired end state must be visualized. In a recent Scrum training that I attended, the trainer gave a very good example of how a product backlog could be crafted. So in his use case, which I would like to use here, he has a product goal of having a clean house. The house has 3 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, 1 living room, and an outdoor deck with pool. We are not sure if the cleaning agents are sufficient and there are many toys on the floor that obstruct cleaning. How would you define the product backlog? Here I'll pause a while so that we can think through it. Again, I recap the target. The target is to have a clean house. There are toys littered around the house, and we look into the storeroom and found that the cleaning agents might not be enough to clean the whole house. The house had 3 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, 1 living room, and an outdoor deck with pool. How would you create the backlog items for this problem? So if you're thinking of creating a backlog item that talks about, yes, first we need to buy the cleaning agent, next we need to clear the toys, then we go and work on the bedroom, tidying up the bed, then likely we're on the wrong track. Remember, every product backlog item needs to deliver value to the business. Here, he has taught us that it's the product backlog item will be defined as a clean room, a clean kitchen, a clean living room, and a clean outdoor deck with pool. Each of these product backlog are sliced vertically instead of horizontally. And each of them, by delivering a clean bedroom, does bring value to the business. I hope it gives some example of what a product, how to define a product backlog item here. So after the tedious periods of BQ, budgetary code, and RFQ have completed, it just marks the start of outsourcing journey in WINS. As all teams, it goes through the forming, storming, norming, and performing phases. It takes time to build relationship, trust, and understanding. So don't expect team to be 100% efficient from day one. For our team, it took about 3 to 4 sprints to stabilize, build, and sustain that momentum to deliver the product increment. One recommendation is to always start the team on the correct track of the we concept, not differentiating by agency, by organization, that I'm the customer, you are the tech team, and you're the vendor. We do not differentiate ourselves by the agency, or if you're a GovTech officer, or if there's a vendor, and we do not differentiate even ourselves by roles. So for our team, we work on the following principles. We have no hierarchy. Everyone's inputs are important and valued. We do not throw tasks over the wall. All PBIs, product backlog items, are discussed together. We commit to deliver the product, the scope, as well as the timeline together, and the product is never delivered by one team member. At the beginning of outsourcing, there were arguments of out of scope contents or items after refinement of the stream backlog item, and when a new discovery was found. And this is very common because the product backlog that you put in a tender or a contract doesn't cover everything about the product. That's where the product refinement comes in. That's where the spring backlog item refinement comes in. Over time, the team will just learn that new discovery is just a change that the team needs to learn how to respond to. The team together decides if the new discovery is out of scope, and if so, create just a new backlog item for PO to prioritize. And for tracking or auditing purpose, we always create a new card in Jira for such a backlog item. And this is not linked to the Jira card that was created for backlog items stated in the tender or contract. So maybe I jumped a little bit. I should have said that, in fact, when we started our project, we did create all the product backlog items as a Jira card for the team. And whenever we find a new one, we create one and we add into the backlog. While it takes some time for the team to stabilize, we then encounter challenges such as dependencies on other features or components delivered by other squads due to common services. Here, we found that there were dependencies on common services built by other squads. The impact is that this resulted in waiting time and could also lead to delays to the product delivery. One of the recommendations that the team put up was to stand by this guiding principle that we build when needed and always by needed. And the next challenge that we found during development is also common services shared within the product. There are common services shared within the product, and we are not sure who should do it and how should we do it. This then resulted in uncertainty in the development scope as well as the ownership. The teams then together set up the guiding principles on, all right, who breaks it and who will fix it. So it's important to note that refactoring and even rework is expected for Agile because the team built on a just enough concept. The ownership of common services belongs to all the team working on the product and not limited to one or a few individuals who worked on it. As the project gets more familiar and experienced with Scrum, the team can start to think about moving into large-scale Scrum. Scaling Scrum starts with understanding standard one team Scrum, and from that point, your organization must be able to understand and adopt the large-scale Scrum methodology, which requires examining the purpose of one team Scrum elements and figuring out how to reach the same purpose while staying within the constraint of the standard Scrum rules. If you want to learn more about large-scale Scrum, I've pasted a link there which you can visit to learn more. But my recommendation to anybody who is keen to start an agile journey in organization, I will always recommend to start small and always with just one agile team to gain experience. I often get questions on how to work with fixed story points from a contract. As you know, you throw a contract at a vendor, put in the cost schedule, even with fixed story points, and we have to work around that. To many people, it goes against the mindset, the agile mindset that change is constant and we need to deal with it when it comes. So can the fixed story point work with change? Earlier on, I talked about investing effort in product backlog to be published in the RFQ, and also recommends to buffer at least 20% good to have stories in the backlog. The reason is because this 20% will be crucial for any product owner to swap with more important and valuable discoveries that the team will find during the product backlog refinement. Besides that, we also advocate to constantly communicate, prioritize, and track. Why do we do so? So for communication, as you know, is crucial for agile development. And in communication, we prefer face-to-face interaction. Recall the agile value of individual interactions over processes and tools. During product backlog refinement, it is important to keep the backlog items simple and stupid. Don't over-plan it and don't over-design the feature. And since the whole team works together on the story point that was defined for that story is decided by the team and committed by the team. For any new discovery, evaluate the importance of delivering it in the product increment. Do a quick assessment of the effort and the story points needed to create the story, and then create the backlog accordingly. And also always remember to tag the reasons why this new backlog item was created. This is then passed on to the product owner for prioritization. The product owner will align the product backlog item with product vision, evaluate the returns on investment, and seek inputs from key stakeholders. If the product owner thinks that the backlog item is needed, he or she will also need to think about whether this product backlog item will be slotted into a product backlog or needs to be swapped out with another item in the sprint for the next product increment. After prioritization, it comes to tracking. So for our outsource project, my project manager takes stocks of story point usage every sprint. We do the story points burn down by module and the remaining story point by module as well. We also identify and project the new discovered stories into the backlog and communicate the outcome and projection for the product owner to plan ahead. And why this is important is because we cannot assume that the story points are never ending. There's a fixed story point and we need to plan, we need to project, we need to know where we are, and we need to plan for it before it ends. So here, I will always recommend that put in a lot of effort to track the story point usage. We do not use this to stop the scope, but we need to know where we are in order to know where we will end. And here, I like to remind all not to use the burn down chart as management report. This often invites intervention and create unnecessary burden to the team. The burn down chart was originally meant for the team to do internal monitoring, and it's not a mandatory artifact in Scrum. Lastly, I'd like to end my presentation with a few of my personal thoughts about the Agile outsourcing journey in WINS. We learn and grow every day as a team and as a product. Knowledge and common experiences built over time will not be exactly the same in every product. This means that whatever I share today will not be the same with what you experience in your Agile development journey. Yet the 4 Agile values will always be there and they resonate a lot with me. During my Agile experiences, working with a full in-house development team or a full outsourced development team or a co-development model like WINS. In this slide, I added how and which and what this Agile values means to me in my own words. In an Agile team, we communicate actively. We clarify whenever there's a question, and we understand that no question is stupid. And we stay committed to the deliverable that we promise for each sprint. We always deliver a usable product, and referencing to the illustration below, MVP is not a minimum value product. So if you're delivering car parts to a business owner, it brings no value to him. He needs to sell a car. We have to deliver a car. And we know that customer is not always right. But what is the use of a product if there's no customer? And for the last value, it is always important to remind ourselves to respond to changes that brings value to the business, but not to all changes. Lastly, I feel that embarking on Agile and MVP journey allows us to use early success stories to improve the tech branding by demonstrating the abilities of the tech team. Agile development creates momentum of delivery and cultivate a repeatable innovation process that continuously intrigue and engage business owners. With this, I end my presentation and thank you for your time listening to me. We can look at references to the question that were raised. Why did you choose less for scaling Scrum instead of scaled Agile framework safe? I use less as an example. You could also choose to use other scaled Agile framework. It's just an example that I choose to use. I hope I answered the question. Not sure if there's any other questions that you have for me. All right, let's wait for a couple of minutes to see if there are any other questions coming in. I see a question. How do you scope the project in ITT for Agile? I'm not sure if I truly understand the question. So at least for the Agile outsourcing for WINS, we follow the about tender for Agile delivery. So we actually use the same, we leverage on the Agile about tender, Agile outsourcing about tender from GovTech. And there are like there are templates for us to follow, even a cost schedule for us to follow. Next question. If given a choice to start again, would you prefer to co-source model or outsource model, and why? If I have a choice, I will still try what we do today because it is an experience, and it's a very valuable experience because I've never done it before. Both cold source and full outsource model have their challenges. So in the beauty of having a cold sourcing model is that we are able to work with in-house team and work with vendors. We get ideas from both teams. And a lot of times it's only during this interaction that we learned and we grow together as a team. A full outsource model will then just rely on one vendor to come up with ideas and to deliver a product. Given a chance, I will still do what we did because it's a very good opportunity to learn. Hope this answers the question. Next, WINS focuses on redevelopment of an existing EP and IWPS system, or mainly the development of a new function of EP and WP. How many % of the functions of the function development are new, i.e. not in the existing system? So for WINS, this project, we are developing systems to replace legacy system that is for EPI and IWPS. Here, we don't just lift and shift, we don't just copy paste. In fact, we have this design team that I talked about. They gone through the customer journey and they in fact redesigned the whole workflow for the customer, focusing on different pass types. And if you ask me how many % of the functions are new, I would say everything is new because we built everything new. We did not reuse anything from the old system. The whole look and feel is also revamped to improve the customer experience. Next to the question, started with a small team and grown very fast. Did the project exceed the, I guess, project budget and typical tender, which has fixed costs? WINS as a project, yes, you're right. And I want to be very honest about it. We did exceed the projected budget. And that's not because we, I think, I wouldn't say not because, but rather that's because we delivered more than we were expected to. So as you know, there were a lot of, this is a replacement of legacy system. So besides catching up the features, we also need to catch up with new requirements and new policy changes. And the pandemic did not add any advantage to the situation. There were even more changes that came during COVID, and we have to catch up with all these changes. As a result of that, we did exceed the budget. For outsource, we were not allowed to exceed budget. We had to stay within the budget. So what did we do for it is really what I talked about early on. We communicate, prioritize, and track. We are always very cautious of where we are, how much we have spent, and then we are very cautious about the feature that we deliver. This actually forced the business to prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. Every feature to them must bring value before it is passed on to the team to work on. Next, yeah, so what I mean is how do you write the product specification in the ITT document? We don't write product specification, we write a product backlog and we reference to the product backlog. So there is a product backlog that was created for the RFQ. And in the RFQ, we also stated the importance of each story and gave a column for the vendor to indicate the sizing of the story, followed by the story points assigned to the stories. We also use this as a baseline to compare across vendors during BQ, although the story points for each vendor varies, but within the vendor itself, it's always the same. So it's actually a very good gauge to see how each vendor quote for each story. And then to think about the depth that they have for each story. And during the clarification stage, we also ask questions on each of the story to truly understand what they were imagining or making the assumptions that they made for each story to gauge whether they put in the right the appropriate story points for it? Did they overestimate it or did they underestimate it? I hope it helps with the question. So next, how do you get the support and buying from your management for Agile? Agile requires a mindset change, especially for senior management. You're right. I did not go through the phase where the team motivated or made that change in management. When I joined the team, they were already very into Agile. And again, I think it happened because there were a few selected senior management that were very supportive of Agile. And I think it's not even Agile. They're looking into digital transformation. They're looking into customer experience. They're looking into design thinking. There were a few of this senior leadership that were in MOM. They are very focused on this. And because of their enthusiasm, this project started. And when it started, as I shared earlier on, we started very small. The tech team didn't have the knowledge. We didn't know what to do. So we actually engaged a consultant, which is a very good Agile consulting agency, which is ThoughtWorks, to come in to help us and even build this product. And like what I stated in my last slide, is really the early success story that proved the purpose of Agile and the MVP journey that actually pushes on this change in mindset. Digital transformation doesn't happen over time, and we know it is difficult to achieve. So we do have to always start small. You keep talking about a success story that Agile brings to the organization. That's when people will start to change their mindset. And it's never over time. I mean, it's never overnight. It has to take time to build it up. Next. Could you share with us what are the challenges faced in managing Agile development with a co-development model? In one of my slides, I talk about the challenges during the development. Unlike having a full outsourced team where each of the team, all the team members are from the vendor and they work towards delivering a product, the challenges with a co-development team is the comparison of in-house and outsource. And it's something that most of a co-development model will experience. When the vendor comes into the organization or the team or the project, they will feel that they are not on equal grounds with the in-house development team. And they will start to worry when they speak. These are the main challenges that we face in this co-development model, and it's again a mindset change. It is something that we need to build on from day one, and something that we need to sustain even throughout the whole Agile development cycle, which is to keep cultivating the mindset that there's no in-house and outsource. It's really teams working together to deliver the product. And earlier on in the slide, I also talk about how we overcome some of the challenge, the inter-teams challenges on is it you who built it or me who built it? Because contractually, it's going to be very challenging if contractually it had been challenging when the vendor started questioning if they should be building this or they should not be building this. That's where we came out with this guiding principle. Whoever who need it first will have to build it first. Yes, it eats into the story points, it eats into the contract, but overall it's for the purpose of the product. And luckily the business is receptive of it. Because at the end of the day, whatever we do does bring value to the product and the business values it. But what is important is always to have, be it from the business side or from the in-house tech side, to maintain that balance between in-house team and outsourced team, to always be that bridge to prove to them or to guide them and to tell them that there's no difference between you and me. We are one team delivering one product. Only with this mindset, there will not be this daily argument on this is my job, this is your job, this is not his job. On the next question, how do you plan to continue sustaining the solution, considering there will be patches and new features required in the future? Do you employ a full-time vendor team to do so? Okay. So Wins is working on a product-centric delivery model. We do not move, this product doesn't end, it doesn't move into a maintenance phase. So I think if you're asking about that question, we don't do it. In fact, this product will continue to grow into Wins 3, which is the phase 3, the replacement of the work permit system. Whatever we have built for Wins 2, phase 2, which is for employment pass and S pass, will then be further enhanced and adapted to also take over the work permit system. And because it's based on microservices architecture, it is easy for us to switch out technologies. We are not limited by technologies. And whenever there are patches, we will just plan for it. It's not something that we will delay and wait. And we don't have a full-time software team to do this. Today, all the production support is done in-house. We set out like a rotational production support team roster where so today for Wins, we have already X number of releases and we are doing production support. This production support is done by the in-house team. It is done by a small team contributed by each feature team, having one engineer into this production team, and is rostered every 2 weeks. So they will understand the production problem. They will appreciate it even better and also use such feedback as opportunity to improve the product. Not sure if you mentioned, but will you do retrospective with outsourced team or just with internal team? Okay. Wins is running on Scrum, be it for in-house or outsourced team. In fact, even though I keep saying that, even though this is a sharing or outsource model, but we do not differentiate the teams, and we always conduct the same rituals across the teams. Every team will do daily Scrum. Every team will do product backlog refinement, sprint planning, sprint review, as well as retrospective. But I must share that the sprint retrospective within a vendor team sometimes is a bit more reserved because they are in a customer environment. So when they're in a customer environment, they tend to be more cautious about what they say, and sometimes you don't get the truth out of them. That's where I think the project managers and the DSM become important to be there to encourage truth and to prove to them that by saying the truth, you're not being punished, but more like we value your inputs, because only with your inputs, it will encourage continuous improvement. Of course, it's also the vendor Scrum Master who is there to push this for the team. There's another question on, are you able to share your experience on Scrum retrospective using Agile Outsource model? I think I share a little bit. So regardless whether it's outsourced or non-outsourced, the Agile practice doesn't change. The team still runs on the same events that I talked about. The team still have the same roles that I talked about. The team still have the same artifacts that we talk about. So we do not differentiate. The outsource, you do this, and in-house, you do this. Of course, for outsource, we do not control what they do, but they typically follow the same Scrum practice. Can we use Agile for operations and maintenance work? Or is this also Agile outsourcing only applicable to product enhancement? As I talk really, really long in Industrial Revolution 1 to 3, we have learned that waterfall is actually still better for any repeatable process. If you're in a construction line, if you're in a manufacturing line, I will not strongly recommend using Agile. Agile is really more for environments where there are unknown requirements and there are like changing technologies. So it's really there to cope with changes. If your operations and maintenance work does fall into this category, I can recommend you to use Agile. But if you feel that your operations and maintenance work is always the same, it's repeatable, you don't change much on it, then I won't recommend it, because then it could be an overkill and complicates the process. And whether agile outsourcing can only be applied to product enhancement, not just product enhancement, it could be a new product. Outsource the agile outsourcing, in fact, is just to me, agile outsourcing is agile development. And again, agile to me is two parts. One is agile methodology, which is as an example was Scrum. Scrum has specific events, they have roles, they have rules, they have artifacts. And the next thing is agile development. Agile development is about continuous integration, continuous delivery in order to always deliver value to business. And how do we achieve it is, one option is going on cloud to containerize all your codes. And then what is going into CI/CD is about test automation so that we can continuously deliver. So agile outsourcing to me is not limited to product enhancement. You can use it in different setups. It can be for new product, it can be for enhancement, it could be for replacement of an old system. It can be used for all this. And I do want to share one of my personal thoughts on agile. I find agile even relevant to our daily activities. So recently I started playing this Switch game called Overcooked. And to me, Overcooked is very representative of agile. Why? Because it's made up of a team that's cross-functional. If those of you who play Overcooked will realize everybody gets chopped, everybody gets to cook, everybody gets to plate, everybody gets to serve. Nobody has a restricted role. Anybody can do anything. So it has cross-functional roles. There are sprints, because you always finish one game, and as a sprint goal, there is a product increment that you have to deliver. You have to serve X number of dishes. And I noticed that every time we finish one sprint, the four of us will come together and we start to do retrospective. What have we done wrong? What have we done well? How can we do better the next round? And with this, the agile methodology actually kicks in. Although we don't have daily stand-up, but then it sort of falls into that category of applying agile into your daily life. Always delivering value and always prioritize what is most important first, because I also realized when we play the game, we always talk about, okay, we need to do this because this is the most important thing. This is always there and we always need to do it. And that's where the 4 value comes in. Talking about individual interaction, working product, collaboration, responding to change. Next, system owner has been the practice in traditional waterfall project. Now we're product owner for Agile project. How can we change this traditional practice and change the mindset of user? In the major change in from waterfall to Agile is that the product owner, the system owner who is now a product owner, is more integrated in the team. There is daily engagement. So there's always a myth that product owner, the system owner who move into a product owner role will become more or rather busier. But recently I learned that it's a myth. A product owner doesn't have to be dedicated full-time. A product owner, as I shared earlier on, the main role is really defining the vision, prioritizing the product feature. And really, these are the two main responsibility of a product owner. This product owner does not have to sit in all the daily scrum. The product owner doesn't have to be there for the development. The product owner sometimes don't even need to be there during sprint review. The team who built the product is committed to deliver it and even understand and present to the users to make sure that it meets their requirement. So the myth sort of is busted, and it could be that the system owner is sort of have lesser things to do. The system owner doesn't have to write requirements. All the system owner now needs to do is to identify the product vision. The system owner needs to prioritize the features that's the most important to the business. So I could sign in a way that a system owner's role is not upgraded to a product owner. You are responsible for more important things. You're responsible for vision, for mission, and then for prioritization. No longer working on nitty-gritties because the dev team can now do this. But I mean, all these are talk. I know it's not easy. And again, I'm going back to my earlier example, really using small successes to prove that Agile works so that you get a buy-in from businesses. Without proof, I'm sure they don't buy in. So we do have to embark on very, very small test cases or use cases or even proof of concept to prove to them that it works. And this will definitely bring value to the business. Okay, we're left with 4 minutes. There's one more question for outsourcing project. How do we implement Agile projects? Who should be the product owner, Scrum Master, and what is the role of PM, BA, TS, etc.? So this sharing I had is on Agile Outsourcing. The Agile team typically, as I shared earlier on, is made up of product owner, Scrum Master, and the development team. The product owner typically, or in fact, I highly recommend that it must come from business. Why? Because the product owner is the one who defines the vision, who understands the value of the product features that brings to the business, who would know it better than the business from the organization. The Scrum Master could be anyone. The Scrum Master could even be a developer. A Scrum Master could come from business. Anybody who is trained as a Scrum Master can be a Scrum Master. And what is the role of GovTech PM, BA, TS? So in the case of WINS being such a large-scale Agile project, our PM for outsourcing is in charge of contracting, is in charge of budgeting, and is in charge of operations. And our GovTech BA is actually integral as part of the outsourcing team to help the team bridge the gap between our business users, internal teams, and with our other ISTD teams. Again, when the vendor comes in, they come in fresh, they come in a bit shy, everything is new to them. So we have BAs who are helping them to bridge this gap between the rest of the agency IT teams, the business teams, as well as other teams within the Agile development to them. So TS and for example, TS and other teams will just be supporting roles in an Agile setup. I think I've come to the last question. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking time to listen to me. I appreciate all the questions that are being raised. I'm sorry I did not answer it appropriately. You can write to me, and if you have other questions and if I have the knowledge, I would like to share with you. But again, I like to highlight that whatever I share today might not be, it's not gospel truth. It's just all the experiences that we have gained over time. And I wish you all the best in your Agile journey. Thank you very much.